Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wimbledon of Chess, the Tata Steel Chess Tournament. Today is the penultimate round. It is round 12 out of 13, and the race is heating up. And today's games were certified bangers. There were blunders, there were brilliancies, and the reason why the thumbnail has a quadruple exclamation point is because we got rare, legendary level moves. It was an amazing game, and I'm recording this after watching today's UFC event, which also featured some incredible fighting. So I'm inspired, I'm hyped up, and unfortunately, Adesanya, who I've been cheering for quite some time, went down against Imavov, and Imavov just looks like a beast. So that might mean nothing to you, but I just spent about 3 hours watching some very skilled martial artists go at it, and the chess today will not disappoint, all right? So a new generation of chess players is coming, a new generation of fighters is coming, and there are epic games to go and to watch. And a friendly reminder that we've got the tour, so check out tickets for the 2025 Gotham tour in Europe. I will be in Brussels, London, Vienna, Austria, Munich, Berlin, and Warsaw. And with that, I will send us to a small Dutch village, and we are going to watch some epic chess. We have Pragg versus Alexis Sarana, and this game opens with d4, and this game is a Queen's Gambit exchange variation, and it's funny because yesterday, Pragg played this exact same thing, but with the black pieces, and that goes to show you that in chess, you've got to know how to play certain openings with both colors. Bishop g5, c6, queen c2, and Pragg here does something really weird. Really weird. So Pragg was afraid that if he played bishop d3 in this position, black would play h6, and if he backed up, black would play g5 and grab his bishop. Which is why he went bishop e2, and after bishop d6, he then proceeded to go bishop d3. This looks like a glitch. It looks like the board is glitching. The point is that now, when he is kicked out, there is a trade of bishops available in this position. That was a bit of a, it was a little bit of a strange moment there, but it was a moment. We have bishop takes, we have h takes, we have queen e7. Now, if you've been following this tournament, you know that yesterday, Pragg with the black pieces castled, Fabi castled, and they attacked each other. If you haven't been following because you haven't been following, or you like this thumbnail and you clicked on it, and for some reason you're watching chess for the first time in your life, let me know in the comments, by the way, if that's like happening. It's always fascinating. There's always a few thousand people in every video that have literally never watched the chess video for the first time. And they're like, what is this mysterious thing? And who is this strange man talking to me about squares? Well, anyway, pay attention. So knight f3, g4. And in this game, the opposite happens. Yesterday, Pragg with the black pieces went that way, and his opponent went that way. Well, this time, white goes this way, and black goes that way. So Pragg is getting experience castling on multiple opposite sides against multiple opponents. This is crazy. Opposite side castling means it's going to be a barn burner of a fight. And by the way, for 2 games in a row, Pragg gets an attack. And I mean, the thing is, black has really overextended here. He's like really playing in a way that is provocative. He could have just castled without committing these pawns and then waited. For example, if he castled like this and castled, then the attack would have been much more powerful. But you'll notice that in this position, white has what's called a blockade. He's got a blockade on those pawns, and those pawns are not going to get through. And white's attack is much more powerful, much more impactful. Sarana obviously didn't seem to think so. He thought that he would be totally in time with counterplay, but Pragg plays knight a4, and I have news for you. His next few moves are going to be putting a knight here, bringing this rook over here, and probably launching his b-pawn, and I frankly do not see how black is going to defend himself. And the computer evaluates the position as 0.2. Friendly reminder, 0 is equal. 0.2 is nothing. It evaluates the position as equal. But it's a very difficult position to handle, because white's moves are much more natural. The engine is evaluating this position as equal-ish, but it's not so simple or straightforward. White is still going to attack. He's going to attack on the b-file. He has all sorts of brewing sacrifices. And yeah, I mean, Sarana makes a very nice defensive shelter for the king. It looks like white absolutely cannot break through. But he can. There is a hidden resource here. Now, the threat is obviously that the pawn is pinned and you want to take the A pawn so that it cannot be taken, right? You stop that with king A8. I don't think he liked king A8 because something could still get to the B6 square. So he went knight B5. Now, if you didn't have the bar, you would not even understand what's the... I mean, if you take, the C pawn takes. Black has a very nice wall. Well, as it turns out, knight B5 is a huge mistake because knight takes A6 anyway, and Sarana has blundered. Because now, 2 pawns are received, right? For the knight. Knight takes A6, and rook takes C6, and rook D7. Knight F5 attacks the queen. Pragg is just infiltrating. Queen D8. Take. And now Pragg doesn't even take the pawn with the check. He advances the A pawn. Point of this move is not even necessarily to play A7. It's to control any black piece from defending the king. And folks, it looks finally like Sarana's creating some counterplay. But Pragg finishes the game in style, landing an absolute haymaker from the heavens, a legendary move. Queen B7! It's mate! Not right away, but it is a rook takes B7, A takes B7, highlight reel moment as he infiltrates with all of his pieces, literally all the pieces. These kings and pawns, they're just standing around, right? They're just creating the structure for the position. That was a very, very potent attack. Not a great defensive effort from Sarana, who blunders. Sometimes a blunder is small, and sometimes it is an uppercut to the face. And this was an uppercut to the face, because Black's position cannot recover. Pragg wins a beautiful game, and he wins it with a legendary queen sacrifice. It is rare that you get to win games like this. And my man Pragg has won 6 games out of 12. He's won 50% of the games he's played. He's 6 wins, 5 draws, 1 defeat. He's up 22 rating points. He's up to number 6 in the world. And he is on the way to catch Gukesh for first place. And we are going to watch that game because that game was insane. And Gukesh is trying to maintain his lead in the tournament. First, we're going to pop over to the challenger section. Faustino Oro, the young man, he is 11. 11 years old. That's the average age of a YouTube commenter. Some of you are older. Some of you might even be younger. Versus Miao Yilu, who is a star player from China. She's on her way to becoming a grandmaster. She's had a very, very good tournament. And Faustino has not. But, you know, I mean, like, he's 24-40 as well. He's down some rating, but he has a couple wins against the people who are his rating, and he's lost to a bunch of 2600s. The challenger section is not an easy section at all. And in this game, Faustino developed a very, nice position. And right here, Miao Yi went wrong. Looked like she was making progress. And Faustino here plays a beautiful move. He gives up the bishop for the knight. Why? Because even though the bishop for the knight is not a good trade, white gets normally not a good trade, like that's the general wisdom. The rook opens up on the c file, the pawns are split, and now you play this very important move, h5. This is a prophylactic move against the move g6, removing your knight, and black doesn't have a move. It's very hard now for black to do anything. Black can continue to advance with the pawns, but that doesn't really do much. The center is locked, and Faustino can now make improvements in the position and turn it into a win. Now, obviously, these two players are human. They're not like 27-70. You're not going to see completely perfect technique, but you're going to see great chess. You're going to have knight, well, I mean, compared to us, it is perfect technique. You know what I'm saying? But after showing you a game between like a 2800 player who like doesn't allow any chances, like here, maybe it was better for Miao Yi to play bishop d6, not allow the queen trade and go here. She stabilizes the center, but Faustino in there with a queen trade, playing the position like Magnus, and suddenly, who's defending the pawns? I got news for you. Probably nobody. You're probably going to have to lose those pawns. Now, Miao Yi here goes all out. H5, H4, and H3. Look at this. Out of nowhere, a monster counterattack. The game hanging on a knife's edge, but black with 40 seconds on the clock. Rook F8, Rook F8. Knight D4 is a mistake. H2 check is a counter mistake. And when the dust settles, Rook G6, this is so nasty. Faustino traps the knight on the edge of the board, and the bishop cannot take the knight. And when the king moves, you sack the rook for the bishop and then fork. Here and here. Nasty stuff. Faustino wins the clash of tactics, and that knight is still trapped. Like, Faustino could have taken the knight, probably even here, but he decides, nah, the knight is still trapped. That is just so mean, so nasty. And he gets to this position. The knight is still trapped. The king has his hand on the shoulder of the horse and is like, whenever I want, I will take you. But just relax. It'll all be over soon. And you may be wondering, can't the knight escape now? No, because of the fork. So he is ready to capture it at his notice. Faustino gets a very nice win. And unfortunately for fans of Miao Yi, probably her Grandmaster norm will not happen. I think she has to win the last game with the white pieces. And even in that case, I'm not so sure it will happen. But a great tournament for her nonetheless. And 11-year-old Faustino Oro getting a nice big win. Now, so here's the situation. Nodirbek, Abdusattorov, and Prague, the gentleman who just sacrificed the queen and won 6 games in this tournament, are all trying to catch Gukesh, who has had a monster event, hasn't lost the game, and it hasn't particularly been close. Now, Nodirbek is playing black. He's playing against Arjun Erigaisi. Friendly reminder, Arjun Erigaisi is playing the worst tournament of his life, like one of. Another friendly reminder, Arjun Erigaisi played in this tournament, I think 2 years ago, and in 24 games that he has played in this tournament so far, he has never won a game. I think maybe last time he didn't play Masters, he played something like this. He hasn't won a game in this tournament in multiple years. And in this tournament, he's down 34 rating points. So what is Nodirbek Abdusattorov going to do? Well, he's going to play the Nimso Indian, and he's going to try to pick an opportunity to pick on the guy that hasn't been having a good event. That kind of makes sense, right? And Erigaisi is just going to play normal moves. He's just developing the queen's pawn, the knights, the bishop, the queen, protecting, right? Nodirbek plays a pretty provocative setup, gives away the dark squared bishop, and plays this move queen e7. That's fine. I don't think there's anything like super wrong with this. But in general, black plays e5 here quite fast. And the reason is that you need to create quick counterplay. And the other reason is that's not a free pawn. Because at the end of the sequence, black simply takes a bishop. So, since you cannot do that in this position, black, again, black generally plays like this, and then d5 and so on, and sometimes d5, e4 is a counterattack, knight d2, e d3, dc6, bc6, queen d3. This is the position. White is slightly better, puts the bishop on the long diagonal, and the game goes on. Nodirbek plays here. And Arjun is like, well, I'm just going to trade, and I'm going to trade the knight, and I'm going to put my bishops like this, and I don't really see what my opponent's going to do. I mean, I'm not having a good tournament. I've been making a lot of draws. I'm happy for the tournament to be over. But I am officially rated 2801. Like, I do know how the pieces move, and generally better than my opponents. So what is Nodirbek going to do? Well, Nodirbek starts attacking, which is a bold move, considering he has a worse position. Like, white has the bishop pair and more clear targets in the position, right? Nodirbek gets pushed back a little bit, keeps attacking, keeps provoking. And this is one thing Nodirbek is really good. He is a brawler of a chess player. Like, he's good at, like, kind of keeping the tension, just kind of keeping the game going. Queen g3, he trades, stabilizes his center. White is still better. White a4, queen f2, and now Nodirbek messes up. Nodirbek picks a fight with the wrong guy. Arjun Erigaisi has not been having a good tournament. But you know what? You provoke Arjun Erigaisi? Yeah. He's going to go straight down. Just pop you right in the face. G4, and now Nodirbek is in severe trouble. Quite frankly, I don't really know what Nodirbek expected here. I mean, it's not like I would have, made it this far in the game. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying G4, H4, and a powerful counterattack removing your pieces was incoming. Now Nodirbek has to play F5, and after this very straightforward maneuver, White is just a pawn up. White is a pawn up with all the benefits of his position. Arjun goes rook d6, and this was not the best way to proceed here, but in this position, he gives up the rook for the bishop, and he takes the knight. And it's very practical. Computer prefers that he would have went rook g6, and then there's a way to kind of trap this knight forever and ultimately take it over the long run, but he does this, and yeah, I mean, practically speaking, this is a tough position to defend with black. I mean, 2 bishops for the rook. 2 bishops beat a rook in almost every endgame. As long as there's pawns on the board, So e4, king f1, best move on the board. Queen c2, a lot of tension in the position. Nodirbek goes wrong again, And now the position is restabilized. And here, Nojabek had to not play rook f8. He had to keep his rook protecting the e-pawn, because after this, there are all sorts of tactics, like bishop to e6 check, queen e6, and queen takes g7 mate. I mean, the bishops are just nasty here. And bishop e6 played very nicely, and ending the game in style, not going to an endgame, but sacrificing the bishop again is Arjun Erigaisi. Queen e6 check, and he seals the escape. He gave up a bishop, and he plays a quiet move, but black is busted. Queen f5 is mate. Queen e5 is going to win a rook anytime you want it. Queen h3 is probably going to be mate in some positions, like if queen g6 is played. So queen h7 is played, queen e5, and that's it. Why is that it? Because if you take on f6, I play check. If you come forward, I give you checks until we trade the queens, and then I win. What do I mean by that? If you go to the back, I trade the queen. If you come here, I go check, and anywhere you move the king, let's say here, check here, this is game over. It's just 3 pawns versus 4. You just lose. Here, now there are some ways that white could screw this up, but like by giving the pawn away. You know, provided you don't do that, you're going to win the game. Arjun Erigaisi just won his first game in 25 attempts in the Viscount's chess tournament, and it couldn't have come at a better moment because he beats one of the people in the running for the first place, and Gukesh can now celebrate and relax a little bit, provided he doesn't lose, and he at least gets a draw in his game. So with that, why don't we go there? You know, why don't we go to that game and take a look? Actually, even before that, I'm going to just preface by saying there was a moment in a Challengers game which was very epic. So this is Aydin Suleymanli. Folks from Azerbaijan in the comments can tell me if it's Aydin or Aydin. And I actually played his brother, I think, this summer. I played Suleymanli. That's, I mean, I assume they are related, but they might be cousins or they might not know each other at all. Anyway, my point of this is to say that he's having a great event. He's in the running for first place in the Challenger section. He's one of the strongest players, young guy, 26-20. That's not the important part, okay? The important part about this game is that it was a massively complicated battle. It was a very, very messy Queen's Gambit declined. And the players were playing quite well and defending each other, and, you know, life was good and so on. And then, you know, Aydin got a very powerful initiative, and, well, he played an attack. He got an attack brewing on his opponent. He opened up the position like this, and then he played the move Bishop d4. And I don't know if this is a broadcast error. I didn't see anything on social media about this move. White is winning here, but it's not so simple. White has an extra f-pawn, but advancing the pawn is not so simple because you weaken your king, but you're better, although you have 3 minutes. Bishop d4 is a wild move. So the point of bishop d4 is that the rook has been given up, right? If takes, the rook just takes and white is better. The rook has been given up because after queen h6, king g8, queen g7 is checkmate. You, of course, cannot take the queen because of the pin. But according to the broadcast, both players blundered that queen h7 is possible, which is unbelievable. The average rating of this matchup was 2640 FIDE. And according to they both missed this, which is crazy. That's so wild. So if you ever felt like at your rating of 600 or 800 or 1200, chess was hard. Evidently, it's hard at all levels. By the way, black went here. And like I said, I can't even understand if this is a broadcast error or what, but they restabilized the position, and Aydin went on to win a very nice rook endgame. This is winning, of course, because white is going to win the pawn, and all you got to do here is cut the black king off at some point and just start pushing. And what's going to happen is your king and pawn are going to link up while black is winning that pawn, and you are going to promote. Black will give up the rook. You will have a king and a rook versus a king, and you will win the game. Now, Aydin, by the way, dominating the challenger section. And here was another epic game. This game was a circus. So Gukesh is playing black, and what we have seen in this tournament is that when Gukesh plays black, he really, really, really wants to win. Another time, we have a Queen's Gambit decline. This is all the rage right now. Everybody is playing this. Bishop e7 takes. Similar kind of a structure, although obviously look, this is the way you kind of determine the difference of these openings, right? You kind of look at where the bishops are. So in this game, it's like bishop g5, bishop d3. In this game, it's like slightly different. Here we have bishop f4, bishop f5. Prague game, we had also kind of a difference. We had like the bishop on e6. So it's all kind of like different meta stuff. Now, this game gets really crazy because both guys move their h-pawns. And from this point, we have total nonsense. So queen b6 attacks the pawn, queen d2 defends the pawn. Knight g4. Computer hated this move. It was like, what? Knight g4, what about e4? It claims that after e4, Gukesh is really not doing great. And after something like knight f6, e5, if black commits to this, then after takes, black is not, I mean, he's not doing so great. There's lines where the bishop gets forced back to h7, and white is very happy. This is Gukesh provoking. Now, Jordan tries to make a draw. So Jordan here shuffles the bishops back and forth and threatens Gukesh with a draw. Because Gukesh is 2770. Gukesh doesn't take the draw. He prefers a worse position. He doesn't know he's worse, but he gets his knight kicked out of the position. And now Jordan again can consider the move e4. And I really feel like, here's what I always say this in my recaps. If Jordan was playing me and I was playing black, I feel like Jordan plays e4. I feel like he looks at me and goes, what are you doing? Aren't you taking your focus off that? Like, e4 is very natural here because white gets these two big pawns. And then white can, but against Gukesh, and this is what the best players in the world do, they provoke. Like, they provoke and they have a bit of an aura. And Gukesh here going backwards with all his pieces. Look at some of black's last moves. From this position, queen b6, knight g4, they shuffle, queen goes back, knight goes, what? Gukesh, there are children watching. Children are watching your game. You can't have children go queen b6, queen d8, bishop d6, bishop e7, knight g4, knight f6, knight h7. What are we even doing? The kids are watching. Well, evidently, Jordan chooses the wrong pawn, gives away the pawn on h4, and now Gukesh is better, but it's not an easy game because after knight h5, you win the pawn back, bishop comes here, and even though Gukesh has a slight advantage, nothing is clear about this position. Now, over the course of the next few moves, Gukesh does what he always does. This is the critical moment of the game, right? Like, let's say 10 moves to go for each player. Position is equal. Time is relatively low. This is where Gukesh is a monster. In clutch time. Knight e5 jumping into the middle of the board. Gukesh locking down. And here, Jordan plays the move heard around the world. I was watching this game and I was like, oh, wow. Jordan sacrifices the rook. Rook takes c4. Out of no, what does that even do? Well, it destabilizes the black position. You get a pawn, so you have a knight and a pawn for a rook. You're only a point down, but queen f7 is a monster threat. Black has no attack. Gukesh has to play queen f6. He has to admit he's worse. He has 1 minute. Gukesh has 90 seconds to make the next 5 moves, or he loses the game on time. Look at rook g3. Everything in white's position is doing well. That wasn't even the best move. Computer wants a4. It wants to completely switch gears. It wants to play a4 and focus on the weaknesses of the queen side. Here comes Gukesh, rook h1. Knight d7 in. Queen d8 back, the best move. Again, the best option here for white is to repeat the position. Gukesh, second time in a row, does not repeat. Rejecting a repetition. He's under a lot of pressure. He doesn't want a repetition. And Jordan here has to play queen a3. He has to play queen a3 because the queen has to be accessible to the defense of the white king. Queen a6 is played, and Gukesh is better. This is unbelievable. Gukesh also is about to have 6 wins in this tournament, and he hasn't lost the game. You know why queen a6 is not a good move? You're attacking all these pawns which are all about to collapse. And Gukesh now has 1 minute and 39 seconds. And he thinks, and his time is ticking, and he goes below 1 minute. And Gukesh sacrifices the rook! 2 rook sacrifices, 1 sacrifice for white, and then a second one for black. And the point is that if DE, queen D2 is basically mate. King F3 and rook F1, that is why the queen had to be here, so that the queen could be closer to the defense of the white king, because after this, F4, and Jordan van Foreest's king is shredded open. Rook H3 played. He spends a long time on the next move making that decision. F takes e3, and now the only way is king to e2. And Gukesh is winning. But he misses it. He plays rook to b1. What he had to do here is he had to trade the rooks and come down and take this pawn. He would have had a 1-pawn advantage, and queen d2 would have just promoted this pawn. What he probably missed was that queen c8 check is not a draw. King f7, queen f5, king e7, queen g5, and the king actually can run away successfully from the checks. He probably thought it was a draw. He probably thought, if he does it wrong, it's not going to work. So he obviously blundered something. Maybe he came here, and he was like, after queen g1, this doesn't work because king f3. Maybe this is what he calculated. But he's winning after this, and this, and this, and he's winning. I don't know what he miscalculated, but rook h3, pawn takes, queen d4 is chop, chop, chop. It's like chopping vegetables. Everybody chopped. Queen d4, you just have to calculate that you get out. And the seemingly unflappable Gukesh, not only does he mess up the win, not only that, a few moves later, for no reason at all, he again tries to play for a win, and after queen g6, there is a mate threatened, and I'm not so sure this is that easy of a position to defend. Gukesh seems to think so, but Jordan plays rook e3, and ultimately the game, for a third attempt, ends in a draw. A crazy confrontational game. Gukesh, I think Gukesh would have done some, like, he wanted to win this game so badly. He would have went skydiving again to win this game. He skydived after he won the world championship. But he got himself into a crazy tense position. And actually, Jordan was doing really well. 2 sacrifices for both players. An absolute barn burner. And I think Gukesh will be kept up at night by a sequence of moves that he would play in a bullet game. If Black was playing bullet, Black does this and doesn't even think. And is like, I'll figure it out. But he probably missed some sort of key detail and ultimately draws the game. And so, after 12 rounds of action, all right, after 12 rounds of action, here are the scores. In the challengers section, at the time of the standings, Bach and Divya were in a drawn endgame that was going on for quite some time. It's Aiden, Tai Nguyen, and by the way, Tai is Vietnamese, but he's actually from the Czech Republic, born and raised, I think. He's Czech. And Erwin Lamy. It's a 3-horse race. And in the Masters, well, it's pretty epic stuff. It's Gukesh and Pragg. And Fedoseev also won, by the way. He's got 7. He's having a great event. Crazy to see Fabi halfway there. And the bottom 3 has been the bottom 3 throughout. I mean, 2 of the lower rated players, 26, 100 plus, but struggling a little bit. Wei Yi, consistent tournament. But the final round pairings, Gukesh has the white pieces versus Arjun Erigaisi. He's going to have to beat his countryman. And Pragg has the black pieces versus Vincent Keimer, who is having a, an okay tournament, but those are your pairings. Who will be crowned champion? I have no idea. And I will see you all in May 2025 for the European Tour. We're going to have exhibition matches, special guests, blindfold chess, cool events, live guess the ELO, and I will also do some stand-up comedy, crowd work, Q&A. It'll be tons of fun. If you haven't gotten your tickets, they're, have gone in some of the venues, so make sure to check it out. I'll see you there, and I'll actually be seeing some of you in 3 days. I'm doing a small event in Hamburg, Germany, which sold out. Appreciate you, and see you all in Hamburg. That's all. Get out of here.